Good evening, welcome to this evening's extraordinary parish council meeting. Thank you to the public and my fellow councillors for attending. This meeting was promised by me at our meeting with our old neighbourhood planning group. Sadly, without allowing the agreed outcomes of that meeting to come to fruition, that group disbanded itself and resigned en masse once it was made clear those leading the group, doing the bulk of the work and public speaking, were resigning. It's a shame they chose to withdraw their expertise and knowledge built up during this process from being of further benefit to the parish. Unfortunately, it is inevitable with the resignations that while we get up to speed, there will be some delay. We wish those that have resigned well and are grateful for the work they have done. In order to reap the benefits of this work, we need to set up a new neighbourhood plan steering committee. During the review process we've had so far, we've come across some additional pieces of work that were noticed, and we're addressing them as we go. It is frustrating that when misinformation is spread, the council has not and will not ban anyone for disagreeing with it. The council has quite rightly banned someone for aggressive and threatening behaviour for an appropriate temporary amount of time. That will come to an end at the end of that period, subject to apologies and attending a review. None of which is onerous, and all of which would be expected from an adult taking responsibilities for their actions. The council will look at any measures it needs to take to protect councillors, their families and members of the public. Carrying on our practice of answering questions raised previously, we were asked the following. Where can we see the signed contract between PC and HBO SC and C? And can HBO SC and C unilaterally terminate it, and do the PC have the same conditions? We are seeking advice as to whether this information is currently commercially confidential. If it is, we will release it as soon as advised to do so. If not, we will publish it on the website. I didn't check up the answer to the second part, sorry. We were asked why myself, as the trust, has declared non-pecuniary interest in Village Green items, but voted on two motions on the 21st of March. The motion I voted on was about the poll and not about the Village Green directly. I have stated previously that I have strong views on the role of the democratically elected council in making decisions. Based on this being about the role of the council rather than Village Green itself, I took the decision to vote. In both cases, the motions were withdrawn by Councillors Webb and Brown without a resolution being made, making that decision of mine irrelevant anyway. Next we have public participation. Once closed to public participation, the meeting is a council meeting between councillors and observed by the public and any press. Please remain quiet during our meeting. If you need to talk to one another, leave quietly and then come back in if you want to. If you are recording, members of the public have to consent to being recorded, and that consent is not to be presumed. Let's start the meeting with the normal 15 minutes of public participation, which we can be flexible with within reason. It is unacceptable to use language like lying and unacceptable to be insulted. Please be respectful to each other, the council and councillors. Please speak only once for a maximum of 3 minutes, and only once I let you know if and when it is your turn. We received one from someone that couldn't attend, so
yeah,
we'll read that out and then I'll come to you, Chris.
Yeah, so Mr. Howard asked me to ask this on his behalf. Due to the recent, the background papers include under the neighbourhood plan item the following. Due to the recent recent resignation of the leaders of the Neighbourhood Plan Steering Committee and Working Group, causing the entire group and committee to resign.
Could you speak louder, please?
Sorry, yeah. So, in the background papers, it said, due to the recent resignation of the leaders of the Neighbourhood Plan Steering Committee and Working Group, causing the entire group and committee to resign. That's a quote from the background papers. The above statement is incorrect and needs to be withdrawn. No one from the parish council was present at the last working group meeting when the decision to resign was discussed, so it's impossible for the parish council to know what transpired. It is also worth noting that neither the working group or steering group have any elected leaders. That was the question. Do you want to respond to it? No?
We had first-hand reports that what Mick said wasn't quite right, and so there are different views on that.
First-hand reports from...
Not so.
Well, you weren't there, nor were anybody else barring the working.
Mick, I haven't asked you to speak. So
Well,
Chris, I
disagree with you.
You're allowed to disagree with me. It's fine.
Hello,
Chris.
first of all, Anthony, you've got full permission to record me asking this question. So, thank you all for attending. It's good to see a good turnout. Given the importance and gravitas of this particular meeting and the fact that it was called as an emergency meeting proves that, I think it's quite important to ask a very key question to all of the councillors, please. And I'd like to know, by show of hands from the councillors, please, how many of you actually fully understand what a CIC is, how it works, the implications of running a CIC, the legal obligations of directors of a CIC, and the potential implications that having a CIC run like this could be on the village moving forward. So if you do fully understand all of that and exactly how a CIC runs, before you all agree that this is what should happen, please can you put your hands up?
There's no need to do that, council.
Why would there be a reason not to do that, can I ask? What would the reason not to ask, given that it's being recorded, it's for public interest, what would be the reason not to put your hand up and say, I fully understand what I'm about to agree on? Can you please, Mr Chairman, tell me what the reason not to do that would be? No reason, thank you. Please can you show your hands and show it says, do you fully understand? If your hand doesn't go up, I'm going to assume no. You don't fully understand? No, nobody fully understands what CIC is or how it works. Ms Beadle, fully understand it?
I don't wish to answer that question.
You don't wish to answer it. You're about to be a director of a CIC that's going to be assigned enormous responsibility by the parish council, and you don't want to disclose whether or not you fully understand what CIC is.
I said I'm going to be one, yeah?
I've asked you, you are noted as being one. I'm asking you, do you fully understand it? Given the position that you're in, you decided it's more important not to answer that question, is that correct?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Anybody else decide it's important not to answer that question? No? Anybody willing to put their hand up and say they don't fully understand it? 2, 3 people, 3 councillors do not fully understand what CIC is, how it works, or what the implications could be. 3, 4 councillors are deciding not to put their hand up. Is that correct? The 4 councillors are not putting their hand up. Is that correct? Deciding not to disclose. Mr Murphy?
Yep.
Deciding not to disclose.
Yes,
Yeah. Mr Beadle, deciding not to disclose.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. Mr Artist, deciding not to disclose. 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 Yeah. That'll be a no then. Mr Strutt, deciding not to disclose.
Deciding not to disclose.
Yeah. Everyone except Keith.
Okay. I think we've
Thank you.
done our time. Thank you, Chris, for your showmanship. Next, please.
Sorry, for what? For what? Sorry, what was about not insulting, sarcastic
sorry.
comments, etc. What was you just said there?
I apologise. Correct. Thank you.
Just building on item 2588, which is the vote on the CIC, the PC in their papers have named the 3 people that they're intending to be considered to be directors of the CIC. Can I just check that, given that they are conflicted through that proposal and resolution, that they won't participate in the vote?
Can I say that I've actually dropped out of that for the time being at least?
Thanks, sir. Do you want to answer that?
That's up to the councillors to make their own decision on that.
I think you'll find that as they're named in papers, that takes away their right to make that decision. They're conflicted because you're recommending them and you're resolving them in the papers.
Okay, thank you. Alan?
Yeah, I want to talk about these allocations policy you put in. I see you tonight you've decided to resolve to decide eligibility and priority for affordable and social housing. And instruct housing associations and housing providers accordingly. The first thing I would say is, why has it been put on the agenda when you've got Laura Atkinson, who has been the rural housing enabler for the RCCE, and also Emily Mulvaney, who is one of housing English Rural's employees, coming to talk to you about this? It just seems very strange to me to sort of try and push this in before that. Because I know in the past there's been conflict between certain councillors and certainly the RCC over what they can and what you can and what you can't do. Now, to carry on, obviously this is about local connection, and the background papers do provide a guide as to what these might be. And I was quite interested about item G of the background papers, which say, decided by the parish council to constitute a benefit to the community. And that to me smacks of almost giving a non-service medal to somebody, and I wonder why that's been put in, and I say no more. Now, earlier this week, I contacted Peter Locke, the Uttersford Housing Enabling and Development Officer, and he came back to me with this quote: the parish council cannot determine their own cascade/lettings policy for a rural exception site, as Uttersford District Council has to follow the Uttersford allocation scheme. That's their policy. It's a 40-page document issued in 2021, and it's still not, which I suggest you read before you go much further, if you haven't already. I've also been in touch with one of our RPs, recommended providers, who came back to me to say, while we're happy to take local community and parish councils' views into account with regard to local connection criteria, ultimately the local connection criteria is a decision for the LPA, in which, in this case, is Uttersford. Okay?
Can we answer, because you're going to answer a number of questions, perhaps it's worth answering
I'll answer
one or two.
and tell you what I've come up with here.
Yeah, well, I just thought you'd resigned.
It's got nothing to do with it. Absolutely
You
nothing.
say you're still involved.
Can I suggest this is a public participation?
Well, you're asking
You
questions,
keep
aren't
quiet
you?
while I'm talking.
You're asking questions, aren't you?
I'm not
The
asking
public asking a question, let me ask a question, it doesn't need to be interrupted.
Or making a statement.
I'm making a statement. Okay, even with a local community-led housing schemes, although the parish council can influence and will be eligible, ultimately control would have to be shared with the LPA and must align to its housing law and LPA policy. Now, this to me obviously begs a question, and this should go out to the parish. Why would the residents of HBO want the allocation of affordable and social housing taken away from professional people at UDC and put in the hands of what can only be described in matters like this as a bunch of amateurs? One final thing on this I'd like to say, if you look at our, it's not mine anymore, forgive me, if you look at the neighbourhood plan website, and you'll see that what was put on there, okay, is this statement: it was recommended that the parish council should raise awareness of the need of potential tenants to be on the Uttersford District Council housing register, because that's the way it works, okay? That's something you need to be aware of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps I can just answer a couple of questions. We had a very good meeting actually with the RCC and English Rural. They've seen all of our proposals. and it was explained how we wish to enact those proposals, and part of the reasoning for setting up the CIC is so that we can enact those proposals. Unfortunately, the way that the housing allocation works is through the LPA, and it is only people who are on the housing list. What we are trying to do is circumvent that. Now, whether it's possible or not is another thing, but what we're trying to do is circumvent it so that the criteria for selection of potential candidates rests with the community, the parish, rather than having people on Uttlesford's housing list from God knows where. I think that's the benefit of trying to do what we are trying to establish here today. If you leave it to the LPA, then we cannot guarantee that there will be local people in those houses, and we really do need social housing for local people. That's the purpose for doing it. That's the purpose for setting up a selection criteria. And if any land that's available is passed through the CIC, then the CIC can put conditions on a housing association for its tenants cascade. So that's a lot more than was done by the Neighbourhood Plan Working Group, and it's something that we are keen to follow up so that we can guarantee, as far as we can, that local people get local houses.
Well, that's really why there's such things as rural acceptance schemes. And there are sets of rules. I know you don't agree with it, but there are sets of rules. And believe me, I've also spoken many times here, 60 years about this. You know, you have still got to get it through the LPA, you know, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you quite often have said it's unacceptable to use the word lying. Our democracy works on the basis that you are elected and that the public are allowed to challenge. And if that means you can use the word lying, that people lie, you must do so. Keith Starmer is quite often accused, was it 9 times of lying in his speech? So please do not try and shut down criticism. All right? Secondly, can I thank Councillor Brown for admitting she does not understand what a CIC is, and if she does not understand the finance, the monthly finance, because she's admitted that to me. And I would hope that she would withdraw from being a director, because that would be managing the money which is involved from this parish. Lastly, you mentioned the incident. I have made a statement to the police, and I have made a statement to the monitoring officer, and I saw a male member of the public threatened by another man in the June meeting. And I'd like to have that made absolutely clear, and that has not been addressed by this council, and I think it's a disgrace that the behaviour of councillors has not been addressed by this council. I deliberately have avoided having any name, and I think it's a disgrace that a name was mentioned in the July meeting, because that breaks GDPR.
No names were mentioned in the July meeting.
Sorry, didn't get it?
I don't believe any names were mentioned in the July meeting. I'm pretty certain of that. Yes, yes. Mel, can you sit down, please? There's really no need to be standing up. Yeah, I know. I don't know. Okay.
So, having spoken to our MP today and spoken to his policy officer, I would like to ask the following question, particularly to Councillor Artist, because I think they're more than welcome to answer the question if they feel they have the answers. It's a two-part question, and it's to do with the creation of the CIC. So, Councillor Artist, I'd like you to explain to us what work has been done to consider all options, not just the CIC, for this change in governance, and it's a significant change in governance. I'd also like you to give us any other CICs that you've spoken to who are doing the job that you're proposing for this CIC to do. I would also like you to mention, if it's appropriate or applicable, what other parish councils you have spoken to who have also created this CIC. And fundamentally, fundamentally, what work have you done to compare a CIC compared to the existing structure of a working group, and why it is so important to create a CIC in the time frames that means that this EGM has been called rather than this being a normal piece of business for the parish council over a period of months. And that, I think, directly relates to the earlier question from Chris, that if you've got parish councillors who do not understand the governance structure that you're proposing, either you've done your research and you haven't shared it with them, or I would suggest you haven't done research. And I'd like the answer, please, to those answers.
I won't answer all of it, but what I will say is that all councillors have had a detailed explanation of the CIC from your very good self at the presentation from Boost. The key factors of a CIC is that the assets are asset locked, as you know.
I don't need the actual results, I need to understand what research.
No, I'm answering the way I wish to answer.
What sites you visited, who
I
you
wish-
spoke to.
I'm
We know
answering,
what CIC does, I'm talking about CIC in relation to this governance.
I'm answering the way I wish to answer, thank you. I've explained the CIC, the reason for having an EGM and using a CIC is because we are expecting planning applications in the very short term, and one of the reasons, apart from the asset lock and the fact that it can be used if we do receive any financial support or indeed any land, then it can be acted and used for the benefit of the community. As I said, we are expecting a planning application shortly for one or two sites, and we need to act quickly to ensure that the community benefits from these anticipated planning applications. As you probably know, the Section 106 award for Great Chalks was, I think it was £430,000, of which this council and this community got nothing. That is something which we have fought against, we've complained against, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. Therefore, the reason for setting up a company is to receive whether it be land or financial support for the community to be used for the community.
But 106 parents go to
that's-
Littles, but they
that's-
don't come to the parish.
That's my answer.
So I just have one secondary question. If you are going to set up a CIC, what plans do you have to ensure that within the Articles of Association of that CIC, it still has an operational responsibility to this parish council? In other words, if you do not understand that, you can choose to write into the government document that that CIC can only operate if it is reportable and responsible to this parish council, and furthermore, that at all times it has to have a number of active parish councillors on its board. So my secondary question is, if this CIC is to be constructed, I would like to be absolutely clear, and I think every councillor should be absolutely clear, just how independent or how accountable it will be to this parish council. Because I think you can all see where I'm going with this. If this is not accountable to this council, then to whom is it accountable?
As you know, any company, charity or CIC is independently responsible. It's not responsible to any particular organisation, other organisation, unless it is a subsidiary. What there will be with the CIC, once it is set up, is a memorandum of agreement, a memorandum of understanding as to how the parish council and the company will operate.
But that's not the same as the Articles of Association, is it? There's a permanent governance structured set up.
No, the permanent governance structure will be as the standard memorandum of the M&A, the M&As basically.
So not accountable to this parish.
Well, a company is not accountable to the parish council. No, it's not. It's accountable to the community.
Okay, so I would like to finish off by saying to the chair, the first part of that question was never answered. What we heard was how the CIC operates. I was asking research that has been done to ensure it is the correct structure to move into. And I've not heard an answer that says there are 6 different options, all of them have been prepared and contrasted, telephone calls have been made, meetings have been held, and the CIC is the best option for the following reasons. That does not appear to me, and I would like anybody around that parish council table to tell me where that information is before the decision is made.
Sharon.
Right. There has been no discussion on the community interest company at any previous parish council meeting. However, we intend to vote on this tonight with very little information on how this will operate, all those who will be involved, and the consequences to the parish of this proposal. Please advise which other councils have created a CIC for this purpose, as you mentioned in the background papers. Understood District Council are responsible for allocating Section 106 funds, so have they agreed to the setting up of the CIC to take control of this money? Who carried out the due diligence? Have all councils been given this information, and where can the public also see this information? Councillors Artis, Beagle and Brown have a conflict of interest. Councillors Artis, Beagle and Brown have a conflict of interest and should not vote on this motion. All other councillors who vote in favour should be disqualified from becoming directors of the CIC in the future. This proposal takes away residents' democratic right to control and influence the future development of this parish and our rights as residents to protect our environment. Members of this parish council have shown a total disregard for the code of conduct they have signed up to. However, this conduct is on another level and goes beyond breaking these rules. Councillors vote on individuals and have individual responsibility for their actions. Therefore, I would ask all councillors to think very carefully before voting this evening.
Neil,
Yes, thank you.
we'll wrap it up after you, so
Sorry?
we need to wrap it up after you.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was a few minutes late at the beginning of the meeting, so missed some points. I was taking some advice on a couple of the points on your agenda tonight, and I'd quite like to share a couple of those points. One of them was in support of the comment that Alan made about the priority of Uttlesford's housing policies versus a parish policy. And giving this from 2 experiences. One was in High Easter, the parish in which I live, where we went through a rural exception site development and got to the end of that, and we were wanting, much like yourselves, to get village residents or people with a village connection into those houses. Unfortunately, as it happened in the end, that wasn't the case, and one of the reasons for that was indeed the priority setting with Uttlesford District Council basically trumping the policies of both the housing associations and the parish council. So I know that that's maybe not the best situation, but I'm just offering that from my own experience. So to that point, I would recommend that in developing the cascade, you do actually consult with the Uttlesford's housing policy team to make sure that at least they're aware of what you're doing, and for yourselves to be aware of the potential outcomes of your wish. Regarding the community interest company, 2 or 3 points. Firstly, and I think somebody else has already made this point, and I think they were correct, that the parish council can't negotiate the S106 conditions with the developer. What they can do is influence, together with the district council and the developer, what those conditions are. But that has to be a tripartite discussion. It can't be bilateral between the parish and the developer, other than potentially some preparatory advisory points. Regarding the CIC itself, I'm aware that one examples were being asked. Well, an example is in Felsted. There was a big development that was resulting in the proposal for a new health facility. And the way that was done eventually was not through a CIC, but was done through a trust. And the reason for establishing the trust was to actually better defend some of the points that were alluded to earlier. My reason for bringing this to your attention is, yes, it could be possible to make a CIC to achieve the aims that you're wanting to do, but it indeed would be good practice to look at other options prior to doing that. And I think I would say it's almost essential that in developing whatever model you do use, that independent advice is taken. In the background papers, I wasn't aware of what independent advice had been prepared there. Finally, upcoming, and wouldn't be in time for some of the imminent housing proposals, but is the concept of the community infrastructure levy, which is coming into place in April. This will give 25% of the income from the community infrastructure levy on developers, and those will apply to development in Hatfield Broader commencing after April of this year, if the local plan is approved. Now those funds could very well go through a CIC and be administered by that, but again, it would be advisable to make sure ahead of time that the structures for doing that are also checked by Uttlesford District Council, who will be administering those, to make sure that the mechanism that you're making will be compliant with those. Thank you very much, sir.
Just one very quick thing. I don't think you quite understand what we're trying to do. The CIC, which is an asset op company, as we've already said, has two routes for funding or land. First of all, it is through a Section 106 agreement. Secondly, it could also be, I'm saying could, not will, could also be with direct agreements with the developer, which is outside the responsibility of the local planning authority.
Yeah. Well, just to that point, because when I was getting my advice, I put that question, and the answer given was with, as the viability checks go through, in the first instance direct with the developer and the district council, but then secondly, in the event of an appeal, the inspector would be wishing to see all discussions that have taken place in the consequence of that. So there's nothing that can be hidden. Everything has to be out on the table, and for that reason, it's much better if the planning officers are included in this.
Well, I would slightly disagree with that, but yes, I understand.
Thank you. Right, moving on. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Hunt and Councillor Crouch. Declarations of interest going around the table, starting with Councillor Rock. Councillor Stevens.
I'm employee of St Mary's School and Treasurer and Secretary of St Mary's Church.
Do we discuss football and cricket this one?
No,
nothing.
Nothing from me. Okay. Standing orders. To approve the amendment to the standing orders as detailed in the background papers. Anyone got anything they want to say about that?
Is it me to go?
I'm signing over there.
I'm not happy with standing order number 2D on legal grounds. As written, it allows the chair to exclude an individual from this meeting and future meetings without warning or discussion under the Local Government Act. Councils can only prevent someone from attending future meetings through proper legal channels, such as injunction used by a court. Excluding someone unilaterally also breaches human rights without an article of the right and fair hearing. I wish to move a motion to defer this. I move the consideration of standing order 2D be deferred until the council has received advice from the monitoring officer regarding its legal implications, including compliance with the Local Government Act 72.
Okay.
Right, and
Okay.
on the side of that, because I was with Alan's team and I resigned
Yes.
with him, along with the whole committee, right, I, for some reason, not allowed to come on to this new one.
We're not talking about that.
No, but it comes up, Mr. Chairman.
Let's stick to the agenda.
Okay,
We're on the
so
same
will you
note.
make a note? I'm going to ask,
That's fine.
because it's on here,
Please don't worry about it.
On the motion.
It's standing order.
background papers.
We're talking
What
about
I'm
the
talking
standing
about.
order.
Okay.
Councillor Stedman. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Beadle. Councillor Rice.
No.
So we've had a suggestion to defer it.
Yes.
Councillor Webb. Is there a seconder for that suggestion? Okay. Can I have a show of hands in favour of deferring that suggestion? All those that don't want to defer the suggestion? To defer the decision about standing order? Can I have a show of hands?
What do you want to do? Defer it or not?
He's asking.
I've asked to defer it.
Councillor Webb has asked to defer it. 3 people have voted to defer it. I'm happy.
I'm happy with defer it.
Okay. That's 4 for deferring it, so we'll defer it.
Thank you.
Yes. The next is to note that the budget is due to recent changes in the neighbourhood plan in particular, and the parish council will be carrying out the budget review in September. I think we've already mentioned that anyway. Well, it's just a note.
Oh no, it's just a note, it's just that it says in here, it says in here, in review in September. I was just going to ask if it could be done so that it is available for the September, before the September meeting.
As soon as it's ready.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the neighbourhood plan, and it's to consider the membership of the neighbourhood plan steering committee, which is what Councillor Webb was alluding to, that,
Yes.
well, assuming because you resigned, you didn't want to be on it.
Well, that's a hell of an assumption. That was your assumption, wasn't it?
You didn't want to resign. So.
I work and done quite a lot with Alan's steering group. I call it.
Yeah.
I mean, Alan was speaking here. Me,
Nice.
But basically, I saw Bellway Homes. I spoke at Bellway Homes. Meetings with Durkin, Equals.
Are you saying you want to be on it?
Well, you've already decided I'm not, so I'm not bothered. I just
Would
wondered
you
who
like to be
decided
on
I
it?
wouldn't. No, I don't want to be on it. I'm just saying.
Councillor Stedman.
Bellway Homes, all the landowners I spoke to.
Thank you, Councillor
And-
Webb. We understand you spoke to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I'd like to come back to that meeting that we had, but that we found the meeting here on that night, but that might have to come later. Okay. But no.
Anybody else got anything they want to say about the setting up a new neighbourhood plan steering group? I'd like to suggest that all those
Can I first of all start by saying, why haven't we actually given the parish members an opportunity to set up another neighbourhood plan group?
because they resigned and wanted to
No,
start.
the rest of the community have not had an opportunity to actually say, yes, I'll
we set up a committee, there is no neighbourhood plan without the council having a neighbourhood plan committee. They can't join something if we don't set it up.
They can't make a new group.
Not without us setting up a committee. So that's what, and you didn't resign, so you have the opportunity to join. I'm assuming that you may want to join. And if council wants to join, he's welcome to join.
But it clearly stated here, and the clerk must notice he wrote it, please note that councillors that previously resigned from this committee are not eligible.
Well, it was assumed that you'd resigned but didn't want to.
But that's,
So there you go. I
that's
understand.
what the writing said, and I thought, okay, I understand.
Okay.
Mr Chairman, can I just say,
No.
people can't be, your council can't be listening if they're in separate meetings. They should all be listening to everything that's going on. It's pretty important.
Chris, would you mind being quiet?
I don't mind being quiet. I just mind controlling the council, please.
If you carry on, we're adjourning the meeting.
You know what, sir?
Right. Councillors, has anyone got anything else to say about the neighbourhood steering committee? I'm just going to suggest that the rest of the council that haven't resigned from it stand on it. Can I have a proposer? Seconder? All those in favour? All those in favour of forming a new neighbourhood plan steering committee? Councillor Beadle opposed, Councillor Artis seconded it. All those in favour, show of hands. Anyone against?
Abstain.
Anyone abstaining? Two abstentions. Okay. The next motion is to consider designating the clerk as the administrator of the neighbourhood plan steering committee, noting that this may incur overtime implications. Can I have any comments on that? Is there anything that we need to discuss on that at this point?
No, it's necessary, so I suggest we vote for it.
Yeah, fine.
Can I have a proposer? Councillor Artis. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Beadle. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. To approve the neighbourhood plan site assessment report as found at Appendix A. That's been circulated for some time now. We made one minor change because one of the keys on the spreadsheet was completely wrong. There was something I noticed that I thought it should highlight, is there should be a column on it, or a row on it, to say sites that lead to further development within that round. There is a site that, should that go ahead, then another site comes on board which more than doubles the village in size. I think that should be highlighted.
At the moment, surely we're still working on that 115 houses.
Yes.
So it's in the
But
future.
it's an enabler for a
Yeah.
much bigger growth in the village.
Elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, the Newbury 100 site, if that's built, then 600 houses that came up in the site assessment, site request.
That's the one in Cambridge, yeah?
The one beyond it, yeah.
Yeah.
But without that first 100, the 600 don't come live. And I think people need to be aware of that. That's my personal thought.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I'm quite happy with the assessment report.
Presumably you have to consult the authors of the report before you amend it.
Can you remember to stay quiet or leave? So, councillors, are we happy to carry on with that as suggested?
Yes.
With that amendment?
Yes.
So can I have a proposer for that? Councillor Brown, proposes seconder. Councillor Artis, all those in favour?
Yes.
To resolve that the clerk amends the existing site preferences survey considering feedback from councillors to be approved at September full council meeting. primarily the feedback from councillors were we wanted people to make more than one choice, to rank things 1, 2, 3. There were some other minor details and there was some work needed on the layout. And prepared to go away and do that and then bring it back to the council meeting in a few weeks for us to vote on. Any questions? Okay. Can I have a proposal for that?
Yep.
Can I have a second? Councillor Beadle, all those in favour? And the part E is to resolve that the clerk creates an affordable housing nomination survey to be approved at also at the September full council meeting. Any questions? Can I have a proposal?
Yep. How's that?
Can I ask a question? Rural exception sites. The rural exception sites, do they have to be rented or can they not be bought?
I think they can be shared.
Shared ownership is not a preferred option of the housing associations, but it is something they consider.
But
we can't just sell them. So
No, they can't be sold.
no, because otherwise you'd lose them
Okay.
going forward.
The reason for doing this is because, as has been pointed out earlier on, Battlesford has its own risk, but we need to make sure that we are aware of people in the village or associated with the village who require affordable housing, such that either we can advise them to go onto the housing list, or we can keep our own list, which will be shared with any potential housing association. So I'll propose that.
Yes, Councillor Arps proposed, can I have a seconder? Councillor Brown, all those in favour? Carried unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, just before you move on, I meant to ask just on this neighbourhood plan.
Yep.
I missed it somehow, but when the previous group were working hard on it,
Yep.
I don't believe they had any money for a secretary, but the new idea is to use our clerk during overtime. So there's a cost there. But
They're
they
absolutely
haven't
is.
got it. They haven't got the money. I think they struggled
We
with
didn't
getting
have the
50
time.
quid for something.
Yep, I agree.
I'm sure our
It's
clerk's not going to be
unfair.
happy because she's got a good memory, so she'll clearly know the hours she spends on it, and she can report to us.
Thank you. Okay, affordable housing policy. To resolve to include or update and negotiate with the local planning authority a local connection policy for rural exception sites or any affordable housing site supported by the plan or the parish council. Questions? Can I have a proposal if there's no questions?
Opposed?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Can I just say something, please?
Yeah.
And I would like to address all of those items under 2587.
Okay.
The plan to give local people with a strong local connection to our parish is a good one. The connections are detailed, are clear, and there's cascade to adjoining parishes and then the wider district, in my view, makes sense. The policy stated give the parish council a lot of power to decide eligibility and priority. And my understanding, and I think that's been borne out this evening, is that this is currently done by registered providers and or Uttersford Council to ensure that the process is fair and follow housing rules. And again, I think this has been mentioned earlier, I did not believe that parish council can determine their own cascade. So I would ask that before we make these rules, and again I think that it is a good idea, but to cover us, I would ask that the district council are consulted before we put them in place. And I know that we've got Emma and Laura come in next meeting. So in conclusion, I would like to move that we defer the vote on this. So I move that the consideration of the proposed criteria for the allocation of affordable and social housing under 2587 be deferred until the District Council has been formally consulted on the legality and compliance of these criteria with relevant housing policies and